Hello, ladies. Welcome tonight. I see a bunch of you are in chat. Let's just wait 1 minute to make sure I'm live before I delve into this. I was just sitting here thinking, trying to get my thoughts in order, going over the outline, trying to get in my mind all the things I wanted to convey tonight. So, okay, so how are all of you? I've had a very, very busy, crazy summer, and I have 2 weeks of downtime, followed by our 1 week of vacation in Arizona, and then school. So I'm going to try to do school start the last week of August. We'll see if it happens. So I need to spend the next 2 weeks getting ready for that. I'm getting ready for all my school and everything. So, all right. Someone put in chat that they can hear me. Someone said hello, so I'm assuming you can hear me. All right, so we're going to dive into it. So I was not able to work it out for Mrs. Jujana Anderson to be on. I'm going to try to have her on in the near future. I know I am very busy. I know she is very busy during the summer. So sometime in the fall, I'm definitely going to try to have her on. So hello, everyone. Dana, Jennifer, Amber, Jessica, Crystal, Catherine. Let's see. I think I got everyone. Miss Lady Winter. That's a cool screen name. So welcome, welcome. Okay, so I wanted to get into this because I really want to try to convey this to women, especially young women that are just starting to have children, because this is a message that I wish someone would have told me when I was young and I was just starting to have children. And it's something that I think is really important, because I think that as IFB, you can either swing too far to the left or too far to the right. And our goal is to stay in the middle. And I know a lot of people come from maybe charismatic churches, maybe liberal churches, worldly churches, where they do not implement correct discipline and things when it comes to their children. And so then when they come into this circle, you are able to discipline your children without any eyebrows raised or anything. But I feel like sometimes we go too far to the right. And sometimes I really feel like we're too harsh with our children. And it's something that's kind of been on my heart, because I think the root of this problem is anger. And I'm definitely going to be talking about that. Anger and comparison, they kind of go hand in hand. Anger because I put a quote at the end, and I read this a long time ago, and I completely agree. And it was just simply, if you want to continue to think of yourself as a good person, never have children. Because when you have children, you're no longer a good person. It's just simply saying, children can bring out the best and the worst in you. Children can push you. They can push your boundaries. They can push your buttons. They can test you. They can try your patience. And everything bad really does come out of you when it comes to raising children, especially when you have them back to back to back to back, and you have a lot. And so you have to really keep it in check, and you really have to keep your anger in check, because anger can really have detrimental effects on a child, and it can cause scars that they can carry with them for the rest of their life. Now, this is not something to put a huge guilt trip on all of you, because that's not what I'm intending to get across. I am intending to get across the fact that we need grace in our lives. God shows us grace each and every day of our lives, and He does not give us what we deserve. And, when it comes to our children, when it comes to our relationships, when it comes to our marriages, we need to show grace as well. And so that's really what I want to get across in the next 3 weeks. And I wanted to start out with parenting. I have been around IFB a long time. And in the old IFB, new IFB, the same problem I have seen. And now I like to observe, but don't ever think that I'm like judging you or, thinking horrible thoughts about you. If I've seen some of this, if I'm pointing something out that maybe you're doing wrong, don't think I'm sitting there critiquing everything. This is just stuff in passing. This is stuff I've seen at different churches and at my old church. And We really don't have this problem at my church. I feel like we have a very good spirit in my church, and I have not noticed any of this with the parents. So this is just stuff I've seen in passing. But I've noticed I've noticed all the stuff we're going to talk about. So let's just get right into it. So Ephesians 6:4, I did not look this up. So let me go ahead. I want to get it word perfect. Ephesians 6:4 is a verse that comes to mind when I'm thinking about raising children. Now, this is directed towards the fathers, but as mothers, we can take this to heart as well, obviously. And Ephesians 6:4 says, "And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord." Now, if you look at Ephesians 6, this is kind of a chapter geared towards the family. So if you look at the context, first it talks to children, and it tells them that they're supposed to obey their parents, honor their father and mother. And then it gives a commandment to the fathers, and it says, "And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath." And this is coming right after it's telling the children to obey. So when I do think of fathers provoking their children to wrath, if you look at the context where he's telling the children to obey, then he's telling the fathers not to provoke their children to wrath. I think one of the key things that we can remember is with fathers, they tend to have very high expectations for their children, and moms can too. And sometimes I feel like our expectations are a little too high because children are adults that are just have not learned self-control over their emotions, self-control over, being obedient, things like that. And they mess up just like humans, just like us. Well, they're humans, just like us adults do. And then so it goes on to servants, talking to servants and then masters. So if you look at the context, it's telling the fathers to be careful not to provoke their children to wrath. And what are some things that can provoke our children to wrath? Obviously, one of the things I think is not having clear boundaries and rules. So, this is not all about, it's all grace, forget disciplining your children, forget training your children. That's not what this is about. This is about balance. It's about having balance. It's about not being too far to the right or too far to the left. So, you need to have clear boundaries for your children and rules. There are certain rules in my house that are not rules in your house. And there are certain rules in your house that I do not have for mine. And it's all about finding the balance. So let's see, like one of the rules for us is, I try to really get across to my children, no lying, no lying, no lying. If you lie, you're going to be in big trouble. It's going to be a lot better for you if you just come clean and tell me. So, we have clear established rules there. Other rules, like for our teenagers, no dating until you're old enough to get married. That's just a rule. So don't try to sneak around. Don't try to do it. We have clear rules and boundaries. We expect them to act a certain way in public. Obviously, not especially with the little ones, they don't always act that way. So then we deal with that most of the time when we get home. Lana is 5, and obviously Kelly is 6 months. So we don't expect that out of her. No crying in public, Kelly. Obviously not. We're not talking about babies here. We're talking about children that are old enough to understand if they're doing right or wrong. So Lana is old enough to where if she does do something in public, we can deal with it later at home. And she remembers. She remembers exactly what she's in trouble for. So, you do have to have clear boundaries and rules. Don't have a rule one day and then flip-flop it on the next, because then your children are never going to know what to expect. But the flip side to that is that you have expectations that are too high. I remember when I first started having children, there was someone in our old church, and they had children a few years older than mine. They were just starting out, their children were maybe 4 and 2, something like that. And I remember when I had my first child, he was a baby. And I remember them telling me, you need to make sure that you stay on top of training because, don't let him cry for unnecessary things, because as adults, we don't get to cry if we're hungry. We don't get to cry if we're tired. So, you need to train that and instill that in your children when they're young. And I was just like, oh yeah, that's great advice. Now I look back at that and I'm like, that was horrible advice. Okay, first of all, babies, the only way that they can communicate is crying. And the only way that they can tell you something is wrong is by crying. And even as they're young, Lana still cries a lot. And I'm trying to get across, it's not good to cry for things, obviously. But, kids have not learned to master all their emotions. And you can't expect a little 2-year-old to act like a 38-year-old adult. That's just unrealistic expectations. And, they have to learn to deal with their emotions and things. And you have to be careful not to teach a child that, emotion of any kind is never good at any time. Sometimes with my kids, it's okay. So like take last night, for instance, with the our friends, the O'Hagans, have been here for 3 weeks, and we're very close to them. They're very special to us. They live in Ireland, and they're like our Irish family. And they left last night and have my husband and I were just laughing because it was like drama city. We had eaten at Pizza Hut. And we were saying goodbye, and Allie, I could see her. She was blinking like this. And we were like, wow, Allie, you're blinking a lot. And then Lana, just all of a sudden, Lana was the one that started it. Lana just said, I don't want them to leave, and just started bawling in the middle of Pizza Hut. So then she was crying, and Miss Fiona was starting to tear up, and O'Sheen was crying, and Allie started crying. And we were on the way home. And I wasn't freaking out at them saying, what's wrong with you? Why are you crying? I told them, go ahead and cry. Sometimes you have to let it out. They were sad. Their friends were leaving for a whole year. And, it's okay to let your children be sad over legitimately sad things. There's a difference between that or throwing a fit because they didn't get the last cookie, and as a parent, you know that. So I feel like sometimes our expectations are way too high. Let me read this. What Sky said, I feel I'm the only one with high expectations for the teens. They grew up with someone who either yelled or extremely passive and little to no discipline from their mom, and I want to fix all that. And the problem is with teenagers are very sensitive, and they need as much positive, affirmation as they do negative, at least as much, because teens really take things to heart a lot more. So you really have to have your teens' heart when you're trying to correct them, because if the only thing they're getting is negative, 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 negative all the time, they're going to become bitter and they're going to act out. So once again, it's all about balance. It's about finding, the I'm proud of you moments coupled with the, you really need to improve on this. And I've found that teens are not stupid. No kids are stupid. They can tell if you genuinely like them or if you're just angry at them all the time. And no child or no teen likes having someone angry at them all the time. So once again, anger is always the root to this. So, another way we can provoke our children to wrath is anything that they ever do is not good enough or perfect enough. Let's say they surprise you and they clean the whole house. Don't come in and notice the piece of lint on the floor or the dusty shelves. Tell them what a great job they did. Tell them you're proud of them. Thank them for trying to think of you and take a load off of you. That's really, really important to teens, kids, anyone. Another thing is disciplining them for every little mistake and flaw they have. And this, once again, goes back to the person telling me to spank my 1-year-old if he's crying because he's tired. It's too unrealistic. We do not have someone as adults following us and beating us for every little thing we do. And if we did, that would be a horrible, miserable life. And no one would like that. No kid likes their parent following them around, beating them for every little thing. And when I say beating, I don't mean literally beating. I mean, even swatting them on the leg with a spoon. No one likes that. So, I almost feel like spanking can be too, it just loses its effectiveness as well if you're constantly doing it for every little thing. Every little thing should not be a spankable offense, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. So, Amber said, I hate when people say not to let my baby cry too much. It's a baby. They need time to cry. A toddler can handle more, but they still need room to cry and stuff. And, people who just think that babies need to be spanked, I don't understand that at all. A baby is so innocent and they do not know if they're doing right or wrong. All they know in their head is they love mommy, they want to eat, they're wet, they're tired, and they just let you know by crying. They're not doing it to be malicious. They're not doing it to be disobedient. And anyone that spanks a child, a tiny baby, there's something wrong with them. I think. So let's get into this parenting with grace thing. Okay. So just remember that your parenting journey is no one else's. Everything is not going to be cookie cutter. It's not going to be the same. It's definitely going to be different. Ashley asked, there's pastors who say toddlers should be spanked multiple times a day. Thoughts? I think that it's for a toddler, it is a very formative time in their life. And I definitely think throughout the day, they need to learn what is safe and what's not safe. If they're reaching for the electrical outlet and you keep telling them no, they definitely need to be swatted. And when I say spanking, it's a swat. It's not pummeling them. There is a difference. I have seen mothers that have pummeled their 2 or 3-year-old with all the strength in their arm, and that is that's crossing a line. There's a difference between pummeling a child and disciplining them in a loving, correct way. And when I say pummeling, I don't mean like beating them with their fists. I mean spanking them as hard as they can with their hand. And that's crossing a line. Once again, anger is the root, because you are taking your anger and frustration out of their disobedience out on them. And you need to respond in a loving, patient way so that they learn to respond to negative situations in a loving and patient way as well. So, and I know that's so hard, but just remember, you are older. You have lots more experience under your belt. So you should be able to handle your emotions, control your emotions better than the child. So, what about lightly spanking 18 months old for throwing a fit? Definitely swat on the leg. Yeah. And I'm not going to go over exactly how you need to spank, because that's just, no one wants to hear that. I'm very uncomfortable with telling parents how to discipline their children. That's not my place. That is you and your husband's place to sit down and decide exactly how you're going to do things. I am not comfortable with that. I think that comes across as creepy Michael Pearl-ish. And another reason I am uncomfortable is because Michael Pearl, he did advocate spanking and tell people exactly how to do it. And then people take that and they go way too far with it. So I don't want to be the judge and jury when it comes to how you spank. That's something that you and your husband, but I am going to tell you, I do think some parents do take it overboard. Definitely. And obviously, I've never seen like child abuse, because as a pastor's wife, if I did ever see a situation where I believed a child was being abused, I would report that, most definitely. There is never, ever room for abuse. But spanking is biblical and it is legal. And you can do it in a right way where you will not harm the child. And I feel more comfortable with a small child, especially if you just have a light object. Do not hit them with your hand. When you hit with your hand over diapers and things, you do not know how hard you're hitting, and you can damage a child. And I never, ever advocate that. So I want to put that in there. Yes, the pearls are creepy, and he just gives me a creepy vibe with everything he does. So what other methods do you use for discipline other than spanking? Would taking away privileges away? Yes. Yes, we take away privileges with our kids. Once my children get to a certain age, they don't get spanked anymore. And so if they do get in trouble, mainly just for like sassing and things like that, it's privileges taken away, electronics taken away, extra chores, things like that. That's how we do it. But once again, my parenting journey is different than your parenting journey. So you have to establish the rules and boundaries in your own home. But one of the biggest things I've noticed in this circle, I feel like a lot of times parents are putting on a show. And when I say putting on a show, I mean they're carrying the spoon proudly around, like on their Bible, sticking out of their Bible, in their pockets. There's a spoon everywhere. Look at me, I have the spoon. That's just flaunting it. I feel like they make a big deal of, look at me, I have the spoon. I feel like you really should be just doing most of your discipline at home. And if you are having a problem at church, I've done this with my children before. If you're having a problem at church, maybe teaching them how to sit in church and things like that. I have played practice church at home. And what we have done is I've just had them sit, like each of them had their own cushion. And I'm like, okay, here's your cushion. I did this with my 3 younger ones because I had 3 little ones. Now I just have Lana and the baby to deal with. So it's not as hard for me to deal with those 2. But when I had the 3 little ones, I had to get them to behave in church because it was only me and my husband was busy. Sometimes I would have to play the piano and someone else would have my children. So then I really had to make sure that they were sitting good in church. So I'd put them on their own little cushion. I'd give them a songbook and we'd have a practice service. We'd like sing songs. We'd watch a service that was live. That had been live so that they could sing the songs, they could sit through announcements, and then they could sit through the preaching. And they learned, we did that a few times and they learned pretty quickly. They caught on pretty quickly. I didn't feel the need to, and don't get me wrong, I've had to spank my children at church. My church members have seen me had to take Lana out before, but I always try to do it privately. I try to go into the bathroom or a different room, or I've even gone to the van before. And I try to deal with it privately, just me and my kid. I don't want to grandstand it. I don't want to be like, look at me, I'm taking my kid out and I'm spanking them. I'm such a great parent. No one is thinking that you're a great parent, you're a bad parent if your kids act out. All kids act out. All kids need discipline. As at least for me and my church, we don't sit around thinking, oh my goodness, that kid is being bad. What a horrible parent. They never spank him. They're awful. They're slacking. That spirit's not in my church. And if it is in your church, try to get it out of your church. Try not to be that way. Try not to be that parent that is grandstanding, that is, look at me, hear me roar. I feel like most of the ones that are like that probably aren't even being that consistent at home. So most of the training needs to take place in the home. Don't flaunt the fact, brag that you spank all the time. Like I said, don't judge other parents when their child is acting out. For us, I'm going to mention this on later too, but for us, most of the ones that have little kids, we stay the whole day on Sunday. And when you have, especially for those that are driving from far away, when you have parents that are driving, they're getting up at 6 a.m. and they're getting their children up and they're getting them ready and they're driving an hour, they're driving 2 hours, they're sitting in church. We also have Sunday school. So we have the Sunday school hour the children are sitting in. We have the regular service hour. So that's like, an hour and a half, 2 hours of preaching right there. And then we have lunch and soul winning and then another service. So when you're there, when the kids are there all day long, they're going to get tired. They're going to get cranky, and no one thinks here that another person is a bad parent if their child is upset or crying. That's just not how we roll. We realize that it's been a long day and we try to extend some grace to the child. So just, being like, oh, it's been a long day. I know, maybe you just need to sit and rock them for a little bit, cuddle with them. They don't always need a spanking. And I feel like that is some parents' only go-to. The child is sad, spank them. The child's upset, spank them. The child is whining, spank them. The child is, crying, spank them. That's not always what they need. Direct disobedience, lying, cheating, stealing, things like that. Obviously, that's what they need. But there's just some things I feel like we go too overboard. Miss Joanne, you are right. Comparison will rob your joy. No one has perfect children. Children always are going to, mess up or have bad days. And I feel like if you're constantly comparing yourself to someone else, then it will definitely rob your joy. Delight in your children. Have joy in your children and do not compare yourself to anyone else. So yeah, it's not a contest. That's another thing. I feel like sometimes the parents that like flaunt, they carry the spoon around with the verses on it and they look at me, I'm spanking my kid. Or they make it a point to spank their child in front of other people. I feel like, they think of it as a contest in a way. I don't know. Raising children is not a contest with me. our main goal is to raise functioning adults that love the Lord and want to keep on this journey. And I can't tell you how many times I have seen overly harsh parents that just yelled and screamed and spanked their kid for every little thing that they did. And they raised children who hated God, hated the church. They blamed their upbringing on the church and on the preaching, and they wanted out of there. As soon as they turned 18, they were gone. And it came down to, it was like a contest, like, look at me. I'm disciplining the most. I am probably the best parent there is because I discipline the most. Just because you spank your kid a lot does not make you a good parent. There's so much else that goes into it. There's nurture and admonition, and the Bible talks about that. Nurture, admonition, loving your children. The Bible talks about teaching them to love their children. And so there's so much more that goes into it than just spanking the kid. It's more than just a checklist. Okay, I spanked him for this, I spanked him for that, I spanked him for this, I spanked him for that. There's a lot more that goes into it. So it's not a contest. The goal should be to raise functioning children that are emotionally sound, are emotionally stable, and love the Lord. And I'm going to go over some things in church you can do, because I've also seen it where maybe a kid gets spanked so much when it comes to church and church services that they equate going to church with maybe loving God, and they start hating it. And so they start hating the things of the Lord, and you don't want your children to hate the things of the Lord. So we'll go over that in a minute, but balance is always the key. Okay. Balance is always the key. You do not be too harsh, but then on the flip side, don't be too lenient. So it's like you have to have, for me, I have set things that you will get disciplined for if you do, such as direct disobedience, like screaming like a banshee, because kids do that a lot. In anger, that will get dealt with. Hitting, being physical, violent. We will definitely deal with that right away, because I don't want that. I don't want that going on. So that's some things we expect from my children. So it's always about balance, because there are some parents that do too much of the grace, and it's always grace, 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 and it's no discipline. But then, I don't know, I see the flip side more in this circle, with there being discipline, and no grace. So once again, it's all about finding that balance. Say by Grace asked, any advice on disciplining a strong-willed toddler who does not care about spanking, and reasoning is not an option since the child can barely talk? It's just going to be about consistency and really loving that child. I have had a couple very strong-willed children, very much so. And I find that most of the time, by the time of 5, it kind of evens out. So only 5 years, yeah, no problem, right? So yeah, most of the time, by the time of 5, it kind of evens out. So you just, for every time that you have to discipline, also give them a hug and show them that you love them. And, it shouldn't just be all correction, no cuddling, no words of affirmation, things like that. So they will turn a corner eventually. I know it's tough, but there's a lot of strong-willed kids out there. So yes, and consistency, Miss Sherry is right. Very consistent. You have to, don't be spanking him all day for one thing he's doing, and then the next day he's doing it again, and you're completely turning a blind eye to it. That's why I said there's things in our home that it's a given they're going to get disciplined for. And it was the things I mentioned, the hitting and the violence, the screaming and the disobedience, direct disobedience, things like that. They will be punished for. So stay consistent with your rules. That is a huge thing. And even at 2, they can learn. Kelly's like 6 months old, and I'm not saying that she's learning right from wrong yet, but it's so cute because she knows when I bring my boppy out and I put it on my lap and I lay her on the boppy, she knows that she's about to nurse. And so she gets super excited, like really impatient, like she starts panting and crying. And she's only 6 months old, but she already knows that. So, kids they learn, they catch on very, very easily. So Joanne said, sometimes strong-willed, high-energy kids need more attention or they act out more. That is true. And my ones that I've found that were very strong-willed, they turned out to be, as they grew up, I can tell they like, if I hug them or give them praise, they just are like in heaven. They really, really, really love that and crave that attention. So I've had two before with naughty toddlers. I was busy. Mommies we're always busy, right? We're always busy, running here, running there. I've just had to put everything aside, put them on my lap, and read them a book. And then they seemed to really calm down. Maybe they were naughty. Maybe they were getting the same thing over and over and over again. And you were like, no, 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 kept correcting them. Just take them aside, spend a little bit of time on them. And then it's like they soak up that attention and it at least deters them. It gets their mind off of the naughty thing they were doing. So let's see. Yes. And some days we do. They just, Amber was talking about, let's see. I have done jumping jacks before. We've done jumping jacks. We've done push-ups. I've made them run around the house if they're just being super crazy and wild. She said, I wake my children at 5 a.m., chores, breakfast, Bible, exercise. They have a routine. And when they stray from that, it is mass chaos. I agree. I am actually looking forward to my school schedule because I feel like my kids do so much better in a schedule. With the summer, it's just like all up in the air. We're here, we're there, we're everywhere. So I'm actually in 3 weeks. I'm very excited about getting back into a routine. So yeah, same as Sherry noticed it too. They're my most affectionate kids still. And that's so funny because my really super strong-willed children, they kind of turned into like my easy children. It's kind of weird. I was just telling my husband that today. I was like, have you noticed that our really high maintenance babies are our good toddlers and our good babies are our really high maintenance toddlers? But that's how all of our kids. So Kelly should be a really easy toddler. Keep my fingers crossed because she is incredibly high maintenance and I barely get anything done since I've had her. Whew. She's high maintenance. So I'm hoping she's an easy toddler. We'll see. But yeah, expect some things from your children. Like Amber was talking about giving them chores. Give your children chores, expect certain things from them, but then don't expect too much from them. Don't expect them to put in a 10-hour workday when they're 5, obviously. I don't know who would do that, but sometimes I feel like our expectations are way too high for children. Remember that they are a child. They want to enjoy their childhood. Don't be such a taskmaster that their life is misery and they have to walk on eggshells in their home, just constantly worried about messing up and getting spanked or messing up and getting punished. You want your home to be a haven. You want your children, after they're grown and gone, to think back on the time when they were growing up and want to go back. They want to be at your home. They want to be around you. They don't just want to escape as soon as they turn 18. So just try to make your home a haven and a place of rest and not an angry place filled with just weeping and wailing all the time. That's a nightmare. Kelly said, my 5-year-old girl is super overly emotional, will cry at the drop of a hat. It's very difficult to find a balance of grace for her. Any advice? I've had a couple girls that are like that. They're very superly over emotional. That is very hard for me to handle, not being an emotional person. I've gotten better with it. Just like last night, I had to laugh at it because it was just like tears galore in the van going home. And then Kelly was screaming on top of it. Fun times. So, my oldest daughter is very emotional and I have struggled often with it. Realize that everyone has different temperaments and God made us all differently. And if, some are more emotional and some are not emotional like me. And if we were all like me, then we would all kill each other probably. But if we were all emotional, then we would all cry ourselves to death probably. So just try to remember every kid is going to be different. Every daughter is going to be different. And take a deep breath and try to figure out why they're crying. Now, Abby was like that, and I would have to say, why are you crying? Are you crying because you're upset? Are you crying because you're mad? Why are you crying? And I would determine if I need to take further steps based off that. If they're crying because they're throwing a fit, that's one thing. But if they're crying because they actually did get their feelings hurt they're sad about something, you need to get to the root and just maybe ask her. I would have to often say Abby, because she was really hard at explaining. I would say, tell me with your words, tell me with your words, what is wrong? And, don't just be like, oh, you're crying again. Let's, punish you. Go to your room. I have told Lana goes to her room sometimes. When Lana is crying over stupidity, I call it stupidity. When Lana is crying over stupidity because her sister is being mean, or I don't know, called her sensitive or something, I will tell her to go to her room until she's done crying. And then when she's done and she's ready to be around us, then she can come out. So I do that sometimes too. So yes, kids definitely need to be reminded what our expectations are often, and I think as they get older, they realize it and they learn it. But yeah, definitely try to remind them, especially when they're younger. So remember that God shows us grace in each and every day. And, he, like I said, he does not follow us around just waiting for us to mess up so I can punish you. No, he shows us grace, and his mercies are everlasting, and he is long suffering and kind and patient. And yes, use your words. And he wants to give us grace. So as parents, don't just be looking for ways, oh, I can't wait to discipline my child. I don't know who would be like that, but I don't know. Sometimes I think some of them are. Miss Sherry said the emotional ones are usually the ones that just require a lot of communication. Yes, that is true. That is true with some of them, but then with some of them, like, they have a hard time. I think it depends on if they're extroverted or introverted as well. The extroverted emotional ones will have no problem telling you what's wrong in detail. But the introverted ones, you'll have to kind of dig it out of them. Like, I want to know what's wrong. I've had to tell my one daughter, you need to tell me. I don't feel like talking about it. You need to tell me. But I really don't want to. You need to tell me. You kind of have to drag it out of them. And that way you can determine if it's a legitimate problem or not. So, but yeah, remember that you are raising human beings and not little robots with no soul. Okay, they're not little soldiers. They are arrows. The Bible talks about them being arrows. But they are human beings that eventually they're going to be married and they're going to start a family of their own. And a lot of what they learned about interacting with people and raising children is going to come from you. And that kind of scares me sometimes, because I have made my share of mistakes. And so I want my children to be better than me. I want my daughters to be better moms than me. I want my sons to be really good dads, So it's very sobering when you think of the fact that this is what I think all the time. Okay, my daughters are learning from me how to raise my grandchildren. So would I want them acting towards my grandchildren like I am acting towards them? Think about it that way. Because I know, it's always different with the grandchildren. I haven't been there yet, but I've heard, right, Miss Sherry, that it's always different with grandchildren than your own children. So I try to think of it that way. Would I want Abby reacting to my grandchild the way I'm reacting to her? Would I want Chloe acting this way towards my grandchild that I'm acting towards her? So I think of it that way a lot, especially as they get older. Kids have emotions, feelings, and a heart just like the rest of us. And I really feel like some parents are focusing so much on the discipline aspect of it. They don't even care about the relationship aspect, which is, grace. I feel like they don't even care about having a children's heart. They just want kids that are perfectly in line, perfectly behaved. And a lot of it's to make them look better and to put themselves on a pedestal and to have a feeling of, look at me, I'm a great parent. But it shouldn't be about making ourselves look good. It should be about making ourselves look good. It should be about raising functioning adults that love the Lord. So you don't want to raise, kids with emotional problems later on down the road. And we all do stuff wrong and we all mess up. I know I've messed up a lot in the past. I can just pray for God's grace in the areas that I've messed up, because I am a flawed human. And my point is not to have all you ladies All you ladies look at me like, oh, her children are so well behaved. I'm not in it for that. I don't want that. I want to raise my children to love the Lord and to serve him for their whole life. That's my only desire. My only desire is not to make myself look good. It's not to elevate myself. It's to raise God-fearing children that love him. So I love you. Always follow discipline for me. Definitely. Sprinkle in a lot of love in there with the discipline. So I don't know. I feel like because the preachers, and I don't even want to get this across with this whole grace thing, because the liberals have taken grace and they have redefined it. They have turned grace into lasciviousness. They have basically declared that you can't preach against sin. It's always grace, grace, grace. And that's not what I want all of you to get from this, because we are, the preachers do preach hard against sin. And I feel like because they're preaching so hard, you need to spank your children, you need to discipline your children, that we do listen to that as moms, but we go overboard and we're completely missing out on the grace. So once again, if I could just impart to you, just balance. Balance is the key. Do not be overly harsh, but yet don't be too lenient either. Sin does need to be dealt with, and disobedience does need to be dealt with. But it can be dealt with in a very loving way. It can be dealt with without anger and without destroying our children's will, and I've seen a lot of parents that it's like they want to just destroy that child's will. And, a strong-willed child can actually be a good thing, because I am very strong-willed. And it has, because I was from a young age taught the things of the Lord and read my Bible and listened to preaching, it put me on a strong-willed path for good. It has given me strength when we have faced battles in the Christian life. It has enabled me to stand behind my husband, knowing without a shadow of doubt that I will not back down when it comes to certain things. So being strong-willed is not necessarily bad. You just have to direct that will in the right way. So that person is banned. Just a minute. Let's hide user. There we go. So remember to commend good behavior and let them know what they are doing is right. No one can live off of criticism only. I mean, think about it in your marriage. How would you feel if your husband came home from work? He's like, what have you been doing all day? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? This isn't the type of food I like. Why is the house a mess? Why are you a mess? Why aren't you dressed into clothes? Why aren't you having makeup? Why do you look that way? Can you imagine if he just came home and it was criticism the whole day? We often do that with our children. Sit up straight. Why are you slouching? Stop talking like that. You're annoying me. Get out of my bubble. That's one thing I say a lot. What's wrong with you? You're not doing anything right. Why are you so grouchy? Why do you think they're grouchy? Because you keep criticizing them. It's don't just criticize. Make sure that you commend their good behavior. Tell them when they're doing a good job. When it's been a long day, it's not the time to expect perfection. Show some grace. I've seen this before with, it's been just a super long day and the kid is acting out because they're tired, and the parent just overreacts and acts out in anger. And then, maybe it's too harsh with their child. And, you have to watch that. And remember, you're the parent in the situation. You're the adult. You are supposed to have better control of your emotions than that child. So be patient with them. I know it's been a long day. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you're tired. Show a little grace. I think, you have to be careful not to overreact. Now, showing grace during church. I'm going to go over this real quickly. This is actually going kind of long. We're already at 45 minutes. So remember that you're in it for the long haul, not just one service. So, don't make your kids hate church. I've heard stories about parents that were so on eggshells at church because they wanted their kids to behave. And if their kids didn't behave, they brought the hammer down. And they were just so on edge. And it was like walking on eggshells. And then their kid tells them, I hate God, or I hate church, and it's just because kids pick up on tension. They can feel when there's tension, or, when you're overly harsh, they know, and they can tell when you're tense. And so if you just make church into this place that's just a very tense place, they're not going to like it. So talk about how, talk up church, like talk about how fun it's going to be. Let them sing out during the singing. I love our singing. Especially lately, we've had a lot of little kids coming in. They're so cute during the song service. They do not know what they're singing, but they are just singing at the top of their lungs. And I love it. I think it's one of the best sounds in the world. Don't frown on that. Don't make a face and no, let them sing. It's so cute. I love it. If you expect your 2-year-old to sit like a robot and you discipline him from every little thing at church, he's going to start hating it. Oh my word, there is just, thanks. There's a lot of trolls tonight. I just got a really lovely message. Go ahead and, okay. Yep. Sorry about that. Just blocking the trolls. Yes, Jesus loves it too. He does. Some people are really triggered by my message, and I don't know why. So, don't expect your 2-year-old to sit like a robot and beat him for every little thing at church. He's going to start hating it. Obviously, you do have training sessions at home, if that'll help. And then, if they whisper a little in church, it's fine. It's not going to disrupt the whole service. If you have to take them out, but do it discreetly. Don't make a show of it. Oh, I'm taking my children out to spank them. Just don't make a show about it. It shouldn't be like a big, that's one thing I just don't like. I don't like it when the parents do that. I don't like them toting around a spoon in their back pocket. Like, I'm not a delinquent parent. And I think a big part of it is, and I'm going to show grace to them, because a lot of the problem is that they are first generation Christians, and they were not raised that way. And they're hearing the preaching, discipline, but they don't know how. And so they kind of go overboard. So, that's why I'm here just talking to the moms, because I'm trying to encourage you to balance it out. Don't go overboard. Don't be too harsh. Don't grandstand it. Don't make a show of it. It should be a private thing between you and the child. It does embarrass them, especially if they're a little older. No kid likes getting spanked in front of his peers. So try to make it private. Try not to do it in front of other people. If there's a bathroom, go in the bathroom. Things like that. Ashley said, when I was 5, my mom was discreetly taking me out when I was screaming, "I don't want a spanking." She was mortified. I've had a kid do that before at my old church. Definitely did that, Tommy. Yeah. They're like, "Oh, Tommy, shh." We actually used to call it medicine so that they wouldn't scream that. If we would tell them if they were acting out in public, we would say, "You're going to get some medicine when you get home." So then they would just be like, "I don't want medicine." They wouldn't be saying, "I don't want a spanking." So that was our key word when they were younger, was medicine. You're going to get some medicine. That's funny. So yeah, let's see. Let them sing their little hearts out. Remember, Sundays are long days. Give some grace, especially if you stay the whole day. It's a long day for them. It's a long day for me. I'm exhausted by the end of the day. So I need some grace. I literally crawl into our house at the end of the day and just fall into bed sometimes with Kelly, because I am just so exhausted. So imagine a 38-year-old woman gets exhausted. Imagine how a child is going to be. So try to show them some grace. And also, this is another one of my pet peeves, be an encouragement to other moms, not a judger. Don't, oh my goodness. I was at a church one time and it was UBS. that week. And I was there the whole week with my kids, and they were in different VBS. And one of them, who was it? Was it Allie? Yes, it was Allie. She was rotten that week. It was completely out of her norm. She wasn't used to it, just different schedule. And she was throwing a fit. And I was taking her out to deal with it. She was probably, I don't know, how old was she? 4, maybe 4. And I had another mom that looked at me. And this is she was a very, very judgmental type of woman. And she looked at me and she said, "Do you need me to get you a spoon?" And I just said, "Nope, I've got it. Thanks." Don't be that mom. Don't be that mom that looks over and like, looks like someone needs a spanking. Please don't be that mom. No one likes people like that. And this particular woman doesn't have many friends. So who wants to be friends with someone that's like that? That's constantly judging, that constantly thinks that they know it all. And coincidentally, this woman's, so far, all of her children, as soon as they turned 18, they're gone. They don't look back. They're gone. They're done with it all. And they don't look back. So, don't be the type of woman, smile at the mom with the screamy kids and be thankful it's not yours. Smile at the mom and encourage her. It's been a long day. Say something like that. Don't be like, well, if my kid acted like that, this is what I would do. That is the last thing she needs. Be an encourager. Just smile at her. Give her some grace. We need to give each other grace too. And, just don't be the judgmental type. It's not pretty. So remember that God has shown us much grace. So we need to extend the same grace to our children. For grandstanding discipline, being overly harsh, then your kids will run away from it all when they're 18. I've seen it. I can tell you examples. Your kid will remember the bad days just as much as the good days, unfortunately. And I have to remind myself of that a lot. I really try to have my good days at home outweigh the bad days. We all have bad days, and they're all going to come. And sometimes all of you, in fact, the kids, they're just like, "Oh, I'm so glad this day is over." And some days are just like that. Everything goes wrong. The car breaks down and the dog runs away and the sink breaks and, the chair falls and there's a hole in the wall. Yes, this actually happened. So sometimes everything just goes bad and you're just ready for it to be over with. But try to have your good days outweigh your bad days. I want my kids to have a happy home, one that's not filled with strife and contention all the time. And, one where they don't feel like I am just waiting for them to slip up. So, I got you. I can discipline you, so I try to really have the good days outweigh the bad days and get your temper in check and don't take your anger out on children. I think especially for, women that were raised by an angry mom, this is really hard. And I think we all deal with anger to some degree having children because, like I said at the beginning, children can push your buttons. Children can really know what to say to really get to you because they lived with you their whole life. So, but you are the adult. You've got to keep your temper in check. You need to exhibit the type of behavior you want to see in them as adults. So, really just take a deep breath, and really calm down. Go to a different room if you need to, remove yourself from the situation, and then come back to it later. Do your older children discipline your younger ones? How do you feel about that? I feel like if they are old enough to watch them, they are old enough to give a swat or two if needed, but definitely nothing above that. Because my older children babysit. So if I'm going to have them, I've always told anyone that's babysat my kids, and it's only usually been like my parents or my husband's parents, or there was another trusted lady at Lighthouse, my old one. And it's so funny because they all of them have only ever spanked one of my kids, and it was the same kid. So I guess he was ornery when he was little. And I just think it's funny that both sets of grandparents and the one other lady, it was just one kid that ever got a spanking. And when I'm saying a spanking, I'm saying like 2 or 3 swats on the butt. It's not a big deal. But I think that's so funny. So yeah, I would say if they're old enough, if you entrust them to watch them, then yeah, if the kid, sometimes a swat is all a kid needs to straighten them out. So, you know, I have, they have before given them a swat, and then they usually straighten up and it's fine. So, but yeah, your kids are going to have a hard time forgetting, especially the older they get. They're going to have a hard time forgetting when you do things out of anger. Unfortunately, sometimes they remember the worst over the best. Sometimes you can have lots of good days, have one really bad day, and your kids are going to remember that. And there's just no getting around some of that. But it's like, I don't know if you've seen the show. What is that show? Where it's all the different emotions in the girl's head. What is that called? I can't remember. Inside Out. That's it. But I thought that was kind of cute in a way, because it was kind of showing the transition as, you know, when she's younger, it's like all happy memories, happy memories, happy memories. And then as she gets older, she starts like things like some of the bad memories start coming in, and like all her emotions inside are like freaking out about it or whatever. And I thought that was kind of a cute representation of what it really is like as they're transitioning to, you know, from toddler to child to preteen to teenager, and then finally adults. So we are there to kind of guide them through that. We are there to teach them how to be in control of their emotions and how to have self-control and not let their emotions rule them. So a lot of the best example is they're going to have is you. And obviously we all lose our temper sometimes, but try to 95% of the time be in control of your temper. So we all have bad days, but make the good days outweigh the bad. Don't let church or the home become a nonstop battlefield. You know, if your kids are constantly wondering if they're worrying about messing up, or, you know, worrying that you're going to discipline them for something small, then it's not going to be a pleasant home to live with. And I do not feel like, you know, I'm not even saying like I've seen different one of you, you know, different people doing this. I don't even know most of you in real life, but I have, as a general rule, I feel like this kind of pressure to have perfect children and to just be disciplining them constantly and go overboard, it is prevalent in a lot of IFB churches. So Jessica said, I still remember one time when I was spanked out of anger. Not a good memory. And it's not. And see, that's funny, because even though you have all these good memories, you remember that one bad time. And so that's convicting to me too, as I think back over my life, and I can remember a lot of the bad situations. And so I'm thinking, obviously our kids there's going to be bad situations. They're going to remember, but try not to make it be the majority of their life. You want to have so many more good to outweigh the bad. So Deidre said, my 2-year-old daughter saw you and said, hey, where's the baby? Yeah, because she's always on me. If you notice, most of the pictures of me that I have on Facebook, I'm almost always wearing the baby, because that's how she likes to be all the time. I just have a little bit of a cough, Shara. It's not that big of a deal. So yeah, Jessica, in fact, that's just the problem. You know, the memory is always there. So that can be a reminder to us parents to remember to be gracious with our children and to show them some grace. So Dorothy said, be able to apologize to your children when you have done wrong. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So, all right. So it is 8 o'clock. I'm so sorry, Shara. I messaged your husband because you're in Facebook jail, but I am going to have to limit the giveaways to USA only, because I went to go see how much it would be to send the package to Canada. And it was going to be $17.50 just to send a t-shirt. A t-shirt that is normally $4.50 in the United States to send. So I was not able to do that. Someday I hope I will see you in person, and then I can give you one. Or if you're ever in the States traveling again, and I will send you one. I feel really bad about that, but I am definitely going to have to limit it to the United States. So, yes, I can even send it to your brother. That's fine. Okay, so Sandra Gibbs as well. She had messaged me and she was wondering what she won for the giveaway. So now I'm trying to like rack my brain. I thought I had sent her a t-shirt, but Sandra, if you're on here and you are watching this, can you please leave a comment or private message me again? We never really finished our conversation. I thought I had sent you a shirt, but maybe you never got it. I don't know. So I'm going to make sure that I had the address right on there. But let's do a giveaway. Okay, Brandy, you are exactly right. International shipping is crazy expensive. And then I had to fill out like also a form to even like what is it, like a claims form or something to see if they would even accept it. And that's why it's so expensive, because it's going through so many hands and things. So, okay, so that's cute. I just got a message from one of my friends saying that Zeke is loving this GLS episode right now. It's a really cute picture of him. That's cute. She has cute kids. You have cute kids, Amber. So, okay. Sandra goes to Verity. Kimmy, can you ask her if she ever got the shirt? I thought I sent it to her, but I don't know. Maybe she didn't get it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it got lost in the mail. So I will have to send her another one if she didn't get it. Okay. So, sorry about the cough. I was because I've been talking a lot. So, let's do this. Okay, so first one to put down the verse that I quoted at the beginning. What was the verse I quoted at the beginning? The title, the reference. What was the reference? Actually, Kimmy, I actually just talked to Sandra at the Red Hot Preaching Conference, and she didn't say anything about it. She just messaged me last night, so I don't know what's going on. If I would have known, then I would have just brought it to the Red Hot. So what was the reference? There it is. Sky, you got it. Right before Dana did. I know that she meant, yeah, you meant to put the P. I'll give it to you. I knew you meant Ephesians. So yes, Ephesians 6:4. That's it. Sky got it. And I actually have your address, Sky. So I will try to get that out to you. I think I have larges left. I'm not sure. I'll have to check. I need to write down exactly the sizes I have left. We're whittling down to the last few. So if I don't have any larges left, I'll send you an extra large. You can wear it to bed or whatever. So Sky won it. You know, Sky, you seem to have won some things. You seem to be good at you and Amber seem to be really good at giveaways, because didn't you just win? You won the thing from the crock or the Instant Pot thing too. Good job. You were quick. Yep, I'll message you. I'll try to get that sent out this week. This week should be pretty low key. So if you have any other thoughts about tonight's discussion, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Unless you're telling me that I'm ugly, don't leave that, because people seem to like telling me that tonight. So if it's any other thing that would help other women, leave that. Don't leave comments telling me I'm ugly, because I'll just delete them, because I have full control. So there, I'll show you. Anyways, next week we will be talking about, what did I say? Parenting with grace. Yes, you're blessed. It's your birthday month. Parenting or grace in marriage. So we're going to be talking about having grace in your marriage too, when it comes to your husband. And a lot of it is pretty much the same as having grace with your children. So we're going to talk about that next week. And then also the week after, I'm actually going to be in Arizona that week. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to film it on Friday, and I'm going to premiere it for Monday. So it will be a live premiere where you guys can talk to each other, but I'm going to be in Arizona, so I will probably be too busy to be on, but it will be premiering live on the Monday that I'm gone, and that will be Grace in Your Relationships. So I will premiere it. That would be August 12th, I believe. But you guys can get on and chat and things like that with the premiere. So yes, I am visiting FWBC the week of August 12th, whatever that is. We will be in Arizona for that whole week. So, and Miss Sherry will be there. Yes, she will. Miss Joanne will be there. So we'll all be there. Maybe we'll have to do like a live chat with the pastors' wives, an impromptu live chat with all of us. If I have any internet, I will try doing a live Gently Led Sisters, just saying hi from everyone. So I'm excited too. But Yes, next week is the 5th. It will be live next week, but then the week after that, I will actually try to set up a premiere that will go while I am in Arizona. So, all right, you guys have a good week, and we will see you next week. Bye.